Here we go. Hello? Hello? You're listening to and watching, or watching, Loose Gadgies. That sounded like a government
health warning
broadcast, didn't it? Yeah, like there's war outside or something. That kind of thing. So it's episode 6.
Is it?
We're doing all right. This week it's have to versus want to, and success versus failure. A nice pairing, I thought. That's what she said.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, Mark, what's the crack?
The week that was. Hey, we passed a little milestone, did we?
We did.
Yeah. What was it?
We did. Thanks to your kid.
Yeah. Well, Ray
Skipsy.
That's it.
Number 100.
Yeah.
Do you think you waited? Do you think you watched the count and went?
I think he got to 99.
I want to be number 100. Alright.
Yeah.
As you're watching, hitting refresh.
Yeah.
Now's my time.
Yeah. and then he did ask me. He said, "Can I watch live?" I was like,
"Well, you can watch and pretend it's live."
Yeah. And
or we can get him on as a guest.
Do the big guys do that sort of stuff? Do they? Do they do live stuff or not?
I find that podcasts branch one in two directions. They'll either become a live podcast and start out as recorded segments, or they'll stay recorded. So you have people like Stephen Crowder, who's a controversial figure. I found him entertaining for a while, actually. He made us laugh. He brought up some subjects that other people don't talk about. He's, as a conservative podcast, he's a proper conservative podcast that talks about conservative things. I don't always agree with his views on, especially when he starts ripping it out of other countries anyway. But he started out recording a bunch of stuff, realised he was onto something in terms of the type of podcast he does, and then went live and started recording things and doing things out in the street and that sort of thing. Although it's all mostly on Rumble or behind a paywall these days. But that said, the people that he was partnered with, he's recently split from. So at the moment, his podcast is nowhere because he doesn't have a host. He doesn't have like a company. He's completely independent at the minute. So there's a bit of a hoo-ha. It's the only reason he's in my mind because I just happened to see it pop up. And there's a whole hoo-ha between him and the Daily Wire and the offer they made and the contracts that they're offering new podcasters and the expectations they're setting on making sure that they don't say anything too controversial so that YouTube doesn't cancel you out, and so you're always monetized and blah blah blah. They're having a bit of a fight about it, but it seems like the majority of podcasters though seem to record. Although if you're Lex Friedman, he presses the record button and then just talks. So sometimes his stuff's an hour and a half, and I've seen some of them 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So he just talks till he's finished. So I guess the answer is there isn't really there doesn't seem to be a structure. Some people do a mix where there'll be a bit of a live special, but it's mostly recorded.
I just thought intro and that sort of stuff. You obviously you do all of the editing for us. You have to add it on, and so you'd have to be set up ready, wouldn't you? In terms of
that sort of stuff's possible. There are bits of software and whatnot out there. Like I watch. I don't know why I watch it, but it's really relaxing. Airline videos live. I'm not really an aviation enthusiast, but it's nice just to leave it on in the background. It's very relaxing. I didn't realise how relaxing it was just to have something, watch planes, and he's having a bit chat. And he used to work on a news channel, so he's got like a radio voice, if you like. So he's very nice to listen to, and the community in there is great. They're all chatting. I've had a couple of free memberships because they're just people log in and buy random memberships for people in the channel. So and it just randomly distributes them. And I've watched it that much that a couple of times I've picked one up for now.
Yeah.
which means you get to see all the other clips on YouTube, or like it unlocks paid content. You know, it's pretty cool, and some of the shots he takes, he's very good at cinematography, so he's great with a camera, so you can tell he's worked in news, and being sort of one of these on-the-street type newscaster types, you know, so he knows what he's doing with a camera, even with the hardware and stuff that he buys. So, and he broadcasts this live, and I've seen him do 12 hours, but on average he does like 7 or 8, and just stands there all day with the camera, not going to the loo.
It's a large commitment, though, isn't it?
Recording planes. Sometimes he does it for 10 hours. So sometimes he'll come on and he'll wait till it gets dark, and then he gets his night camera out, which is amazing, by the way. The stuff you can see at night time versus what a normal camera can see is amazing. You can still see loads of detail. So I mean, he's really invested some serious cash into the channel and made it what it is. And he has all these on screen. He has a ticker along the bottom. He has the logo up in the top right. He has the time and date, and he does these top of the hour things where he'll show a splash or an ident, and then he'll do his little run saying, "Hi, I'm Kevin," blah blah blah, and do all of this. So he's got it absolutely nailed when it comes to doing something live, or that kind of live broadcast. So yeah, there are ways and means to do it live and still have the intro. You can still have an intro counting you in, and then, you know, go live and have the outro stuff on the end. So there are ways of doing that sort of stuff.
One for the future.
Yeah, I mean, if we had a cool interview to do, or a nice subject, or maybe we hit a certain milestone, we could do a live recording and see how many people show up in the chat.
Yeah, it is a tough one, because you can't hit that. It's difficult to hit that sweet spot. But anyway, what's your mother been saying to you?
What was I was telling her, have you watched the podcast? No, I'm sure haven't we? We've watched the podcast, haven't we? I was like, I don't think you have. Like, so anyway, you were in the last episode, was I? What's that about? I was telling them how, you used to tell people to get burnt.
Yeah.
And just started laughing. And now I was like, Mum, you can't say that. She said, well, I've said it. She just started laughing. And she recognised herself when I started rattling off her quotes.
Did you give her a hacky look, and what did you say to you?
A hacky look. I was talking about this a little while back.
Yeah.
Stuff we used to say in school, like, he's a proper ramper, him. Yeah. He's a ramp. Or she's a bint. And I was like, Jesus, these words, do you just stop using them, or do they fall out of fashion? Do kids still use some of those things?
Yeah.
I can't remember a point where I stopped saying them.
Sure.
They just seem to disappear.
My mother would have said something like, "Don't look at me in that tone of voice."
My mum's definitely said that.
Yeah.
Don't look at me in that tone of voice. Yeah. The wind will change and you'll stay that way.
That's it. Yeah. You're not going out to play.
Aye. Especially being off sick.
Aye.
Right?
Yeah.
Sick from school.
You're better now, are you? Couldn't go to school, but you want to go out and play. Is that right?
Aye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aye. What's for tea? Walk round the table. What's that mean? Well, it means what it means.
Yeah. It means what it means.
Means what it means. Aye.
Right, what one?
Nice. I put out a little quote. I quite like doing me research, right, and then putting out my own little quote. So this week it was the real mistake is to learn nothing from it. So the real mistake is to learn nothing from the mistake. And we've talked about this more than once in one of our weekly chats, where we think about, because it encompasses regrets as well, right? When you constantly dwell on what's past or what I could have changed. And well, no, just learn something from it. Like, make sure you don't do it again, or learn why you did it. So you then learn something else about yourself inadvertently from a mistake you made. Look back at it. Why did you make that mistake? What can you take away from it? Rather than dwelling on the fact that you made one. And it's still quite a common thing. I still see that quite common. Even later in life, people still getting hung up on the fact that they made one rather than why they made it and how can they avoid making it. Did they have to make it? Sometimes the situation you get into, a mistake is all you can make, right? If you back yourself into a corner,
you
don't see something coming.
You can't. It's very difficult to use the word mistake because that's past tense now, isn't it? By default. So you can't do anything about it because the fact that we're saying that was a mistake or it's a mistake to do that. You're hoping, we're talking about the past. If somebody's saying it would be a mistake to do that, they're advising you, but then that's your choice then, isn't it?
There's a... Well, I've been looking around at some of these sayings, right? And some people say the past exists because you remember it. They're trying to be philosophical about, nothing's ever forgotten. Like, well, is that a good way to live your life? Like, nothing, isn't it better to say, well, stuff will just disappear from your head eventually? I think that's maybe a better way to put it. The sting that you felt over a bad event will eventually go, and you'll stop referring it to a mistake and just saying something daft you did. Or
well, who decides it's a mistake?
Yeah, not every result is cut and dry, right?
Well, I think it's about perception, and the only person that counts is me.
So your perception of it?
It inevitably, it always comes down to our perception of a mistake, what we define as a mistake. Therefore, it's our own belief system, our own troubles in our own head. I don't remember too many times. I'm 55 now. I don't remember how many times somebody said to me that was a big mistake. You shouldn't have done that. A few, but not many. Out of the millions of things that have gone on in my life, it's interesting. We focus on those few mistakes. We don't focus on those millions of positives.
Well, I got myself wrapped up in this idea of, because the other half of what we wanted to do today was success versus failure, right? And I got myself all wrapped up in the philosophy behind it when I was looking for me different bits and pieces that I could think of a way of phrasing this this quote that I put out. And I got a bit, I don't know if it's too deep, but I thought, well, can you have a success if you haven't failed? Because then you've just done something, right? If you've opened a shop and it worked, but you haven't at any point failed or made any mistakes along the way, how can you call it a success if you've had no adversity? Because then it's just worked, right? My shop worked. You didn't succeed. The idea just worked.
Or I got a lot of learnings from that.
Yeah, well, there was somebody, I can't remember who it is. Probably wasn't important. It was some famous person. Basically said, look, success is just a sequence of failures, right? Or failures are a success in progress.
Yeah, I mean,
right now, that's fair.
Take it down to its basic format. How did we learn to walk?
Oh yeah, you kept falling over, right?
Yeah, and you could define that as a mistake, or you could define it as learning from what just happened.
Yeah, you just got to keep getting back up.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what life's about. That's why life's so fantastic, because it ain't linear and it ain't straight. It's up and down.
And it isn't fair. It isn't fair either. And I think if you go into life with the thought that everybody's nice and everything's fair, then you're not going to have a good time. It's a route to madness and disappointment if you think, oh yeah, well, everything about life is lovely. It isn't really. We're still animals at the end of the day, so we're still very competitive. We're still.
But I can decide not to accept your aggression or your bad words.
Oh well, I'm a very strong believer that in well, it's even grammatically phrased this way, right? That you take offence. Offence isn't given. You can't.
Right.
You can't. You can't be made to feel inferior without your consent, right? You consent to being made to feel bad. Someone says something horrible to you and you feel horrible. You've given them permission to do that because you've chosen to feel horrible about it. Regardless of how horrific that thing is, there is a moment of choice in your head of whether you react negatively to it or you choose to not react to it at all. And yes, some of these reactions are natural reactions, like they're automatic, but you can choose to step out of it. Like once you realise you're starting to feel bad about something that someone's just said, doesn't mean that you can't then go, hold on a minute, I'm not gonna let them win by them insulting me and then me feeling insulted. Then their insult has worked. You do what Jimmy Carr does, and you either come back with something better or you just laugh it off and go, yeah, nice try. Try again next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, try and be funny next time. That'll make you a nicer person. You know, and
yeah.
I think, you know, sort of the setback and failure bit, you know, if you took somebody like Edison, what was going on in Edison's head? Well, he had allegedly, 10,000 ways that don't work.
Yes.
And the one time
Yes.
it did work, you know, and somebody worded it that way, that, you know, how do you feel about
that's
your
the one you remember, right?
Yeah, how do you feel about your 10,000 failures? And he turned around and said, yeah, I just found 10,000 ways of not doing it.
And eventually found one that worked.
And that's the thing about, you know, failure or setback, whichever you define it. I think they're pretty close together. It's like how you define it. If I'm one of the things I was thinking about before, if I tell myself in the mirror this morning I'm beautiful or I'm ugly, that will enforce that feeling. So if I say I'm a beautiful person and I am who I am, and I'm gonna have a smile on my face today, that's what I'll have. But if I continue to say yesterday was shit and today's going to be shit, guess what's going to happen? You will get what you ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think many people don't realise how easy it is to convince your own brain of a thing.
Yeah.
And that falls into the NLP again, when you're in a bad mood, and if you choose to snap out of it and put yourself, you're feeling afraid, so you get angry. You feel nervous, so you start laughing, right? So you try and pick out a different emotion, so you can trick your brain like that, but you can also convince your brain with the same sort of methodology. You know, if you keep telling yourself a thing, you're just going to think that that's true.
I did a new.
Of course you are. You'll convince yourself of it.
I did a new thing this morning, so I did one of those cold water meditation sessions, and and the first part of it is about, you know, breathing and meditation and just being with yourself for half an hour and letting those thoughts come in and go out, and just knowing that this is what I'm doing for the next half an hour. I don't have to think about anything else. It was very invigorating and quite emotional at certain points, because you're just enjoying being there for the moment, and not all that shit that goes on in our heads sometimes and floats in and can sometimes destroy us. And there has to be something to be said about giving yourself time and giving yourself a bit of meditation time. I don't meditate, but, you know, that one experience this morning taught me that, well, if I think positively about that experience, then I'm going to probably have a better day.
My experience with the clinician and the ultimate effect being diagnosed with ASD did for me was an unexpected result, and one that I didn't engineer. It just happened on its own. I found that all of these things that made me uncomfortable to think about in the past all of a sudden started to look different. Because my brain quite often goes back on things, rehearses things. I rehearse things. I don't choose to. It just happens, right? I rehearse things that might never happen, might happen, have happened, will happen. I rehearse them all to try and get it right first time. And I look back on some of these things that regularly pop into my head. I don't know why. I torture myself sometimes. But then I found that the way I looked at them had changed without meaning to. They just did. And the way I looked at it, I went, oh, well, that'll be because I'm not good at this. That'll be because I'm deeply uncomfortable in those situations. And it is okay that I am deeply uncomfortable in those situations. Some people are. And for me, neurologically, I can't be any other way in that situation. I can't. It's not that I choose not to be or that I haven't practiced enough. It's something. It's that my first reaction will always be X, Y, or Z in certain situations. And I then have to go up from that, if you know what I mean. I have to try and steer myself out of it, but I will always react a certain way. Or there'll just be things that I just can't do. And I've accepted that to some degree, and it helped. So some of these old memories have stopped recurring in my head, because I'm like, well, I couldn't have done anything else.
Is it? Do you think it's
I
more?
wouldn't have reacted any other way.
Do you think it's more about your diagnosis, or more the fact that we're moving into what you call the middle years, or is it a combination of both?
That's an interesting point. I found that I was gaining a lot of experience, and I've gained a lot out of me and you chatting over this last year or so, and I've gained very useful perspectives, but in some memories it wasn't enough. There was just something nagging us about it, and I think that's one of the things that ultimately led to me going to the doctor and literally harassing him to get me on the list. So I've spoken a little bit about how autism works for me, but one thing I probably don't understand well is whether having dyslexia for you has meant any kind of major setback or failure. Has it actually impacted your life in any kind of major way? Meaning that, this is not something you could have avoided, right? Because it's just the way your brain works. So it's like, how would you deal with something like that?
I just meant, I found out at 40 I was dyslexic, but all the way through sort of high school, the only thing I ever wanted to do was join the police. And anyway, at 17 I applied, and obviously the first thing you do is the entrance exam, isn't it? And failed the entrance exam, and I'm using the word failure because I didn't pass it. Or I could have said I didn't pass it, which is totally different in the brain. Then I applied again at 21. Not really giving much a reflection on the first time. I just thought, well, I didn't pass, so I'm going to try. I tried again at 21. Didn't pass again at 21. And then you get in that mindset that, well, I'm just not good enough. So I was in the mindset I'm not good enough, so I didn't apply again. And then, interestingly, after my diagnosis, I applied for the specials, which is the police. You have the arresting powers, blah blah blah. I applied, got extra time for my exam, and passed.
Wow!
First time, and it's just that knowledge, And then looking back, you're just like, I can't do it now. But if knowing I was not broken, but something wrong with me at 16,
it wiped something out of your past as far as your brain's concerned. You're like, it wasn't that. It's just that I do things different, and the moment there's a strategy in place to take care of the way that you do things, you can pass just like anyone else.
Yeah. And what's interesting now is that you said it before, Simon, that we'd probably lean towards the things that really attract us, knowing that the things we're not particularly good at in terms of diagnosis. So you tend to, I sort of love the creative side a little bit more now, being outdoors and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's part of it. Whereas, sitting there and actually reading a book from cover to cover, we both find extremely difficult. Because my eyes are up and down the lines, and I've read the same line 4 times and it becomes extremely frustrating. And now I know you can buy glasses and blah, 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 but, I think looking back on sort of setbacks and failures, I think that. But then I recognise the flip to that, it's the reasons why I'm so passionate about other stuff, because it's part of the recognised sort of elements of dyslexia, etc.
That is a good point, because a lot of the interests I have and how interested I am in them, or maybe even why I'm any good at them, is because of how my brain works. So I try to think of my neurology, my autistic neurology, as a gift in some ways. As cheesy as that sounds, because there are things that I can do that in quotes, normal people just cannot. Just can't, because you cannot see that problem the way that I see it.
Well,
Like the way I interpret that thing in front of me is entirely, because that's just the way my brain interprets these things.
I fondly describe you. I remember, obviously, we've worked together, off and on. But in the early days when you were creating my reports, and I would just think this could never be made, and I'd turn up in the morning, and I'd go, "Do you think this could be done?" And then you'd compute as we were standing there, and your eyes would flicker as you computed that message, and I still remember, and then you just stop and you go, "Yeah, I can do that," and I'd be like, and then you'd spend like 200 hours or the night overnight and come out with it the next day, and I'm just like, well, and now in reflection, that is obviously something you bring to the table because of who you are. You can do that.
I couldn't help it either, though. That as soon as you gave me a problem and I got excited about it, I couldn't stop my brain wanting to go off and go, well, I could bring this and this and this. I've got one of these. Actually, if I link these two things together, because I like to leave the room having given an answer.
Yeah.
Although
even now when you're describing it, you're looking up and thinking about linking.
Yeah, do you remember that time? Actually, there was one moment I was in your office and you'd asked me to write some daft report, right? Some system of some kind. And I started getting a bit wound up, and I went, I don't even know if that's possible. And I was just sitting, just sort of rocking back in the chair, going, I don't know. I don't even know if that's possible. And you were just sort of looking at me like, right? But I don't know. And you're like, yeah. Right, and so I thought, right, well, I'm going to have a go then, aren't I? I'm going to have a go, and I got up and went out of the office now, and I remember just sort of walking across the warehouse floor, going, well, this and this, and I know my mood wasn't great. I was like, oh, well, there's this and a bit of that, and it turns out after I left, you and Michael had a little conversation.
Yeah, how long will it take them?
Yeah. So when do you think you'll have it done by? I didn't know you had those little conversations.
No, what's interesting is you helped me create two of the phrases that I live and die by now, which are, I don't believe in the word cannot, and I don't believe in the word impossible. And that comes from the early days of working together, and coming up with these what seemed like far-fetched ideas, and then suddenly they come to fruition. But you look through all the way through history, whether it's climbing Everest or running the 4-minute mile, people using that impossible just creates some people were like that, which say, I'm going to move heaven and earth. Not religious, but I'm going to move heaven and earth to prove you wrong.
Yeah, some people use impossible as a blocker, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's an excuse not to try, isn't it? It's impossible, that. Some people don't even think about it. They say, well, have you tried, though? Like, has anyone tried yet? No. Well, then how do you know? Like my dad used to say, you don't know, do you? You don't know, do you?
Go into some of the warehouses that we've been in one time, and you go into the goods in, and they'll be sitting there with their feet up on the table. In the early days, they might have actually had a cigarette in their hand, and you'll go, "I tried that," and they go, "I tried that before, it doesn't work." Wait, so you could try a different way, couldn't you? Oh no, we've tried them all.
Tried them all,
No, you haven't. No, you haven't. Because I am going to sweat blood and tears here to prove you wrong. And that's what we were doing. We were going into these fixed mindset places and creating growth mindsets out of them.
This is this is one reason why I think I don't get on with sort of the union types of people where they say, well, no, we need to keep all of our current working practices and all our current ways of working because that's the way it's been done. It's safer that way, is it though? Have you tried another way yet? No, but we know, really you know, you've tried them all and this is the one you've arrived at. No, but this is the one that we know is, how do you know though? How do you know it's the safest way of doing it, or the best, or most efficient, most cost effective? How do you know? Because you haven't tried any other ones and you refuse to try them. It's like I was an old warehouse manager when I don't even think this company exists anymore. I worked for B Modern Surrounds in South Shields, and I was the assistant computer manager, or as he liked to keep calling me, the computer manager's assistant. Like, shut your face. I do enough work around here, running network cables and running things through the ceiling tiles and setting up servers and God knows what else. Is I'm the assistant computer manager, and you can shut your face. Man, I was only about 18 or 19 or something at the time, and I remember going to sit in his office, and he was one of those kind of blokes, right? This is the way we do it, cause it's the way we do it, and he was trying to get into reports, right? But what he wanted was lists of information. It wasn't a report to find a problem, it was lists of stuff that he wanted so that he could have it in front of him. So it wasn't about, I need to see this picture so I can improve what's happening. Like, I see a problem and I want to see the detail behind it so I can fix it and then watch it being fixed. It was just, I need a list of stuff. And one of the I've repeated this a few times when in places that I've worked. And he says, right, I want this report, right, and I want these columns, and can I have it in datal order? Is it what?
Data?
In datal order. Do you mean chronological order? And he went, no, it's the same thing, isn't it? Datal order, I want it in order of date. Well, that's chronological order. Well, your words, you know what I mean. You know what I mean, datal order. It's the same thing. It's not. That's all kinds of bad grammar. What are you on about? But he was that sort of thinker. He had a way of thinking, and it was, in some ways, it was a simple way of seeing some things was a benefit. But then, if I introduced, you know me, I occasionally introduce complex ideas and might not explain them perfectly. I get very enthusiastic, right? So me and him were never going to be great friends with the way my brain works and the way his brain works. He was quite old-fashioned, and I was quite, well, this and this, well, you could do this, you could add that. You could put this in there. In fact, you could probably open... No, we were never going to get on, right?
Yeah.
Technically, me and someone like Carson should never have got on, but we created a lot of success. And neither one of you, though, believed in failure in that sort of conventional sense either. And you are both very an I will sort of person.
Yeah.
I've never seen you as someone who says, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to lose weight. I have to do this. No, I will. Like, how do I? Like, when I read your news article about your weight loss journey, there was nothing in there that just went, I felt I should. It was more that I could see something coming up, and I could see how it was going to affect me in later life, and thought, I need to do something about it. There was no half sort of 50% effort. It was no, well, I should, or I have to, or so-and-so said I should, or I've been told I should. It was, I've looked into the future, and I don't want that future, so the only way to get around that is I'm going to put it right. And you went straight in, personal trainer, the lot. You went, no, I want this sorted, and you've stuck to it. And like I've said to some people on these diets and whatnot, is that it's great. A diet's a diet, although the word diet I think has been abused. The diet is just a sequence of foods, right?
Yeah.
I hate that when, I'm going on a diet. You mean you're going on a sequence of foods that are going to help you lose weight. A diet doesn't mean weight loss. It just means a set of foods, right? Like a balanced diet, a range of things that you're going to eat or are eating, right? So I had to get that out because it frustrates me. You've got to... it's your way of life that is doing that to you. So there was one really good way of phrasing it that you came up with it when I first lost, what was it, 3.5 stone or something. It was just going up and eventually started coming down. And I realised you were right that what is that way of life doing for you? It's got you into the situation that you're in. So what do? Oh, well, you need a new way of life, don't you? You need new habits. You need to get rid of old habits. It's not just about, oh, well, I'll just not eat this for a bit. No. It's not about, oh, well, I'll not eat bread and I'll not eat potatoes. You can eat bread, you can eat potatoes, but it comes with a cost. And you have to be willing to accept that if you eat that crusty loaf, every single mouthful of that is 50 calories, right? And you've only got 1,500 or 2,000 to play with. So it means you can't have something else. You can't still have that other thing with your tea if you've chosen to have that in the morning. So it's a balancing act, right? You can't have
you can't have your cake and eat it.
Well, actually,
you can't.
The saying was the other way around. You can't eat your cake and have it.
Yeah. I use a phrase from our data, which is there is no bad foods, only bad maths.
Ooh.
I made that one up myself. It's for everybody. You can take it with honour. The other one I like is if you treat it like a bank account. Now you get paid 1,500 quid a month, because we're using that analogy of 1,500
calories a day. Yeah. So.
And you can't go overdrawn, can you? Because you haven't got an agreed overdraft with the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot go overdrawn, otherwise something's going to happen to you. And the analogy is if you go overdrawn, you're going to have to pay a penalty. Well, if you eat too much, you're going to have to pay a penalty, and that is you put on weight. But the bit that gets me the most is the have to versus the I will. If I'm saying I have to, I'm almost allowing an excuse to come into my head. If I say I will, there is no excuse. I am planning to do it. In fact, I'm saying I'm doing it right now. I will go in the gym tomorrow morning. I have to go in the gym tomorrow morning. Oh, that allows me an excuse now because I'm saying I have to. And
one leaves room. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have to. When is this? The other one I love. Was it soon is not a time, and some is not a number. I need to lose some weight. I need to, and the time one was, when are you going to do it? Soon. No. When are you going to do it? Soon. No. I want a date off you. When are you going to lose that 2 pound by?
You couldn't be more vague, could you?
Yeah.
Sometime soon I'm going to lose some weight.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's interesting because, you use certain language better than me, but actually when we start analysing the language we use to ourselves, we have to be very careful because we're reinforcing excuses by the way we speak to ourselves.
You have to makes it sound like it's not in your control. Oh, well, I have to. Like you've been told to. And then occasionally you go, ooh, well, I'll cheat. It wasn't my idea anyway, because I have to. Well, it was your idea.
When was the last time somebody said, I have to go on holiday in July? No, I will go on holiday in July.
Oh, I'm going on holiday.
I'm going on holiday. I'm going. Yeah. So you're actually saying that's something I definitely am doing, versus saying, oh, I have to go on holiday. Well, how does that sound? I have to go on holiday. I will go on holiday. They sound totally different.
They do. Well, I think some people see weight loss and things like that is always seen as a chore, and maybe you have to accept that it's not fantastic necessarily. But then you can be excited, like I was when I first got my fitness pal out. I saw it as a challenge. And you know what I'm like. Once you set me a task, I'm like, right, I'm going to smash the living daylights out of this, and I did. And I kept up that way of life for right up until lockdown. And then I let it slide.
I
let it slide, and I haven't. I've And I haven't picked it back up since, and I haven't quite got back to the way I was, but I keep looking down going, do you know what? This is unacceptable, isn't it? It's unacceptable. It's especially considering I know I can do better.
Peter Kay, your veranda's not too big for the toy shop.
Well, when your mum keeps telling you you've got a kite.
Oh, right, okay.
Look at the kite on you.
Flying.
Right.
It's flying. Yeah.
Right, well, thanks, man.
Yeah. But, I think, I said to you, I was working in Thailand and I was eating crap and drinking crap. And I remember visualizing retirement soon on a beach and thinking, crumbs are going to be dead. And then I just decided, and I keep saying this now, I keep reinforcing it. I'm hoping by reinforcing it, it's going to work. I only have one objective now, and that's to be 100. So, and to be 100, I have to do certain things. And they look at careful. I said have to. I will do certain things to get me to that mark.
It's easy. It's easy to slip into it, though, isn't it?
Slip back in.
It's almost
easy to slip back in. Slip down.
Slipped up. It's almost like it's ingrained in us to say have to, isn't it? Like it's so easy to have that as your first choice of words. I'm gonna have to do it. No.
The more we recognise the way we use language badly to our subconscious, the more we can try and put it right. So the fact that I recognised I said the word have to get to 100, I recognise that pretty quickly, and I'm trying to reframe it automatically. But most of us don't realise the language that we're using is really sort of putting us down. We're putting ourselves down, aren't we?
Yeah, I sometimes... I say sometimes. I do. I treat my brain, my subconscious, as a third person. So it helps me when I get into when I get into triggered states, and it helps me to be outside of it, or to be able to step outside of it and to calm myself down as though I'm calming someone else down. And it's the same in the wordage. Your vocabulary. If you're gonna be able to talk yourself into something, out of something, then you have to be careful the words you use, because your subconscious is a very what's the word? Someone who's very susceptible is not the word, but easy to convince. So it's easily led. So if you use the wrong word, your subconscious will go, I have to do that, do it. I have to. You see what he said? He said have to. It's very easily led. So, but you need to use that to your advantage, not.
I like I listened to the Chimp Paradox, which I think is a really great book. Can't remember the author, but it basically talks about the human, the computer, and the monkey, the chimp. Chimp. And the chimp is that thing that is knocking your head all the time and saying, go and have fun, do this, eat lots of shit. And your logical brain is saying, no, we need to be on this path.
It's the enemy of the... It's that whole thing we talked about, procrastination in an earlier episode, where you're sat there going, nah, and the monkey comes along, grabs the wheel and goes, wait, let's go off here, look, it's a fun park over there. Have you seen that? And doesn't just tell you to do it, it grabs the wheel and makes you do it. Let's go off here. That looks like loads of fun. This is boring, isn't it? It's boring, isn't it? What are you doing this for? It's boring. What are you doing? Let's go there. We haven't had that yet. Let's go eat one of these. Have you been there? Let's go there. Can you shut up? And then before you know it, you're completely panicked. And then the other guy comes in. You haven't done it. You've got 2 hours left to do it. You haven't done it. Come on. Get it done. Stupid monkey. But you keep letting them out. You keep letting them in the front seat. What you doing?
Instant gratification, monkey. You know, he's on TikTok right now.
Exactly. Because there are some times when you go, do you know what? I've earned myself a cake.
That's it. Yeah.
What?
You only had one yesterday.
No. You want a cake. Just admit that you want one, and we'll all be fine about it. No, I just want one. Right. Well, that's fine. But as long as you know that cake is 420 calories, so you've now got, 1,080 left.
Well,
Off your pop. You're going to fit your dinner into that, are you?
We took a trip to Starbucks this morning before we went off to this water thing, and I have my Americano, and the missus likes the cinnamon bagel. Have you seen what's in them? I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. I think it's 568 calories in a cinnamon bagel.
That's unbelievable. I've seen them on. I was watching LM videos live. Was it yesterday, day before? And somebody, one of the fans, turned up with this box of Krispy Kreme donuts, right? And one of them's a Biscoff donut, right? I love my Biscoff biscuits. You know them little cinnamon coffee biscuits. Yeah. You can get them in packets now.
Get it as bread.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Basically, it's basically like brown sugar, cinnamon, that kind of thing, right? So
all the good stuff.
Yeah. So there's this donut. It's filled with cream that's sort of cinnamony flavoured, right? It then has like a glaze on top, more sugar, on top of this donut. It then has biscuits themselves crumbled on top of the glaze. All right, well, you've got the donut, which is deep fried, filled with cream, topped with icing, and then sugary biscuit. Are you mental? Like, who's eating that? I felt sick just thinking about the combination. I went, you would right. So would you take something savoury, put salt in the middle, put salt on top, and then put another salty thing on top of that? You wouldn't, would you? Because that'd be too much salt. So why would you do it with sugar? And the two of them perform the same function in, like Gordon Ramsay says, it's like a magnifying glass for flavour, right? So when you can't taste the thing, you add salt on it. And rather than tasting salt, it actually enhances the flavour of the thing that you're tasting, up to a point where when you put too much salt in it, all you taste is salt. Right? So you need to find the balance. And one thing many people don't realise is your tolerance for salt can be trained, right? Because your brain works on the difference of the last time you had salt. So if you give someone 3 different pots of salt and just get them to drink the last one, it's going to taste really salty. But if you build up towards it, the last one doesn't taste that salty at all, because your brain just learns, oh, well, that's not quite as salty as the last one. So it's very easy. But I just think some of these treats, I'm like, how much? You wouldn't eat that much salt, so why are you eating that much sugar? Sugar does the same in cakes. It brings out the flavour of the thing that's in it, makes it sweeter. It's an enhancer, and that's really what it should be. But you can develop a tolerance to your, I've got a sweet tooth. Got a sweet tooth, me. Yeah, because you've developed a tolerance to sugar. Well, if you walked away from sugar for a while and then went back and ate that thing that you loved, you'd go, Jesus, how much sugar's in this? It's the same. I've started reducing my salt intake, and I'm never going to like them Walker's crisps with the 45% salt. Oh, it tastes an out. And I've been having them for the last 2-3 weeks now. As I'll make a cold sandwich in the morning rather than making a bacon sandwich. Sometimes I'll just go have some salami or something, bag of crisps, cup of tea, and I've got used to it. I've got used to it now. I bet you if I go and get a regular bag of Walkers, I'm going to go, bloody hell, how salty is this? Because I've got used to it.
Processed carbohydrates, we know what they do. They take you up that hill, you love it, and then you fall off the cliff, and then you want some more.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same as eating McDonald's. It fills you for 5 minutes, and before you know it, you're like, "Ugh, I'm hungry."
Yeah,
I'm hungry again, and then you just want to smash your face into something else because you just burn it all off. Sugar crash. If more of us knew about how food works.
Yeah, it's an education in itself. You know, you could go. It's interesting. They don't.
Or how metabolisms work.
Well, we could do an episode on what they don't teach you at school that they should do, you know, and that would be one of the subjects, you know, good understanding nutrition, life skills, all of those stuff that we've had to pick up since we left school at 16. You know, why do I feel depressed because I'm not off in the summer for 6 weeks? No shit, Sherlock, you know.
Well, mind you, there are things that the school shouldn't teach. There's too many people on the news saying, well, that's because schools, you know, and I'm like, hold on a minute. No, the school doesn't teach you right from wrong. Parents do. Oh, well, it's because they're not teaching. Crime's so high because schools aren't. No. No, that's on parents. Schools are about academia, right? That teach you how things work, what a thing is, where it comes from. You only go to school ultimately, once you get into school, not primary school, you're learning to pass an exam, right? You're learning everything you need to learn to pass your GCSEs. That's the entire function, in my mind, of school. The entire function of university is to pass your degree, or to pass your masters, or to pass your PhD. College, so you've got school gets you into college gets you into uni gets you into some level of degree and some higher level of learning, right? So ultimately ending in a PhD where you should be an expert in a certain subject within a certain field, right? But too many people put that on schools, but then that means there's not enough, because they're too busy trying to teach all this other stuff that parents really should be teaching themselves and giving their kids values and their do's and don'ts. And schools could teach things like how do you balance your finances? Did you know that when you move into your own house, these are the bills you're going to get? Do you know that your parents pay these bills? Do you know why your dad gets mad about you leaving the PlayStation on all night and leaving things on standby? This is why, because of this bill, and he'll get this much money in. Go ask your parents how much money each of them earns, and then go and ask for the bills, and then see where all the money... Give them an understanding of what money is, because so many kids don't. Look, I want this for Christmas. Don't know how I can afford it, but they don't understand the principle of being able to afford a thing. Many don't. Yeah. Many don't. They don't place any knowledge or value around money, and there are life skills like that. We used to... I don't think they have HE anymore. Was it home education, household education, whatever it was, where you learned how to cook.
Home economics.
Home economics, that was it. It was economics I was looking at, not education. Home economics, where you learn to do all the stuff at home. You would learn. I mean, when I was in middle school, I learned how to knit, sew. I learned how to cook certain things. I learned the difference between different types of cooking, like boiling versus microwave. We did this with baked potatoes. What's the fastest way to cook a potato? And we tried all these different methods.
Make chips.
And what's the difference between these different cooking methods, right? Like microwaving a potato versus boiling a potato versus getting a baked potato in the oven versus all of these different things. I learned loads, and I can still remember how to sew. I can still remember how to knit. My mum taught us a bit more about knitting. Admittedly, I only ever knit scarves and stuff for my Action Man, right? But just these... the point I'm making is that we don't teach those sorts of takeaway skills. We just say, right, well, I've got this curriculum.
We do teach
takeaway
skills.
Takeaway skills.
We do teach takeaway skills.
Yeah. We Deliveroo, Just Eat.
Box of wontons. Yeah,
Uber Eats.
Anyway, to sort of summarise, even at school, no failure, only feedback. And we'll as you tend to do. I watch this episode at least once and have a snigger, and my wife keeps going to me, "Are you laughing at Simon or are you laughing at yourself again?" And a combination of both. So we will be back next week, won't we?
Yes, of course we will. I mean, I end up watching it a million times during the edit. I've had to get used to the sound. You know how it's really weird hearing your own voice. I don't sound like that. I don't sound like that, do I? I didn't realise how Geordie my voice sounded until I listened to it. Oh, bloody hell, I've got more of an accent than I thought. Honestly, I was always scared in case I sounded too posh, because I like to use words, right? I like to be articulate.
Yep, back next week.
Is it that time already? How long have we been on?
An hour.
Jesus, time flies. Time flies, doesn't it? So, what's your if you were talking to somebody in a coaching session, what would you tell them to take away from all of our have to, I wills, and seeing success versus failure? What would you ask them to take away from that? Just try and set it and to try and concrete it in their mind.
Two things: you get what you ask for. So if you keep focusing on the failure, you will get failure. You will see that in every avenue in your life. So just reframe it in terms of learning, and then in terms of I will and I have to and start listening to the language that comes out of your mouth. And we don't realize some of the negative connotations we have in that language, and try and pick yourself up on certain words that you're using. Oh, I can't do that. Well, try a different way until it does work.
So you're saying that don't take words for granted?
No, I think our subconscious are waiting for them words to reinforce that you should be safe and you should just sit in your house and Mark, you should look after yourself, and because there's a car could come around the corner at any point and run you over. Well, I don't care.
You can still at the door. Get hit by a bus.
Yeah,
it's my mum's favourite. Get hit by a bus tomorrow.
So I suppose focus forward and try as much as possible not to think of the past, because it's gone. You might take some limited learnings out of it, but you will never hit the same situation again. It won't happen.
Don't dwell, but try to learn from.
Yeah, reflect is okay.
It's a hard lesson. I had to learn it. Because I used to dwell on things a lot.
But if we live in the past, that's where we're going to be. And I've got 45 years to go. I'm going to live forward.
You are doomed to repeat it, I suppose. If you think that that's the only way that that's ever going to turn out, and why does it keep turning out like that? Say, well, what have you done to change it? All you've done is look back and expect it to turn out that way again.
Do the same things, get the same results.
Yes, it's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah. Why do we press that switch on the light when the light bulb's not working? Why do we keep pressing it?
Oh, I know. Is it? Just to be sure. Just to be sure.
No, it's not working anymore.
More often than not, you're thinking, well, I'll just make sure it's a switch. It's what's actually going through your head is, I can't be asked to change that.
Correct.
And you're looking for an excuse to not. You go, oh, come on, switch, work. Come on. Oh, damn it, I'm going to have to change it on. I can't be bothered. Oh, I've got to get the ladders. Got to get the ladders to change that one. Can't be asked.
Stop pretending your life's like a switch and that bulb's going to work in a minute, because it ain't.
Well, I've found stop pretending that the reason that you're not doing the thing is that, when it's actually this. Like, oh, I'm just checking. You're not. You just can't be bothered to change the bulb. Except that you can't. The reason that you're doing that is because you're lazy and you can't be bothered to change the bulb. Or have I got one? That means I've got to go to the shop. Now all of a sudden you've created a string of events. And like, well, yes, well, maybe that's what it takes to get that thing done. Do you need the light? Yes. Well, then these are the things you need to do to get that light back on, and you're just going to have to accept that those are the things that you've got to go and do to get that done. So rather than going, I wish it didn't, I wish that didn't happen, I wish it wasn't broken. Yeah, but that's not going to unbreak it, is it? It's not going to unbreak it. So go do it.
Take the analogy to the next level. Get an energy efficient bulb. Therefore, you don't have to press that switch off and on too regular in the future. Focus your forward.
So you will do it. You will change that bulb because it needs to be done. I need the light. So what are you going to do?
He says with one of his bulbs out in his man shed.
Well,
good.
Well, it's pretty deep. I missed one of my examples. I'll have to save that for another time. It was a little story of an unrequited. I'm not sure it's like that.
Requented.
It was a lass. It was a lass I met on the metro. I'll have to tell you about it. I'll have to tell you about it sometime. But it was a regret that lasted way. I've dwelled on it way too long, but I'll cover it next time.
Change the light bulb.
But yes, so I'll get to editing and get this out on Monday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow on the old Apple podcasting, and leave a review. And if I've also put a post out on Facebook asking people, look, what do you want us to cover? And do you have any questions you want us to look at, to face, to dig into? mean, if you try and trip us up, if you like, or ask us some difficult questions, or a question that you're finding you can't answer yourself, it's fine. It's fine if you're struggling to find an answer for it. Then throw it at us, and we'll put our subjects to one side, and we'll cover it. I'll be interested to be challenged by somebody who's enjoying this format and wants to see us cover something in the way that we cover it, and see what we've got to say about it. But until then, take care, and we'll catch you next time.
See you in a bit.